The council chamber was enormous. It floated in space above the neutral world made of crystal that caught the light of 3 suns. Inside, representatives from 57 different species sat in their designated seats. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others had fur or chitin or nothing at all. The translation devices hummed constantly, turning thousands of different sounds into words everyone could understand. Ambassador Dae-hyun sat in the human section. He wore a simple dark suit, his hands folded calmly on the desk before him. To his left sat Ji-won, the head of human security for the diplomatic mission. She had been a soldier once, and her eyes never stopped moving, watching everything. To his right sat Tae-sung, the chief economist. He had a tablet in front of him, covered in numbers and calculations. Chancellor Thrain called the session to order. He was a Velcros, which meant he looked like a large reptile that walked on 2 legs. His scales were deep green and his voice was cold and smooth. He had been chancellor for 30 years. "We gather today to vote on the Contribution Taxation Act," Thrain announced. As we all know, the council faces unprecedented challenges. Resources are stretched. Military threats grow. It is time for all members to contribute equally to our collective security and prosperity. Dae-hyun listened carefully. He had read the proposal 17 times in the past week. On the surface, it sounded fair. But the details told a different story. The act required every member species to surrender 40% of their technological patents to a shared database. It demanded 40% of their resource production go to a central distribution system. It required 40% of their military forces be placed under direct council command. The proposal called it equality and shared burden. Tae-sung had done the mathematics. Currently, humanity contributed 67% of all medical advances in council space. Human engineers maintained 54% of all defensive technologies. Human merchants ran the primary trade routes that connected the entire galaxy. Human doctors staffed most of the hospitals on border worlds. Human teachers educated children from 100 different species. Under the new act, humanity would give up 40% of everything they built and created. That contribution would go into a pool controlled by the Council's executive board. The board was dominated by 3 species: the Velcros, the Chitara, and the Myrnos. Those 3 species contributed almost nothing. The Velcros had military strength but little innovation. The Chitara had numbers but depended entirely on imported food. The Myrnos controlled some water worlds but produced hardly any technology. Together they would control the pool that humanity and a handful of other species would fill. "We will now hear arguments," Thrain said. "The chair recognizes Ambassador Dae-hyun of humanity." Dae-hyun stood. The chamber quieted. Humans had been part of the council for 147 years. They had a reputation for being straightforward and reliable. When a human spoke, people listened. "Thank you, Chancellor," Dae-hyun began. His voice was calm and clear. "Humanity understands the intent behind this proposal. We all want a stronger, more unified council. However, we have concerns about the implementation." He gestured to his tablet and data appeared on the main screen. Charts and numbers filled the display. Currently, contribution levels vary widely among member species. Some give much, others give little. This proposal treats all species as if they contribute equally. It does not account for the actual burden different species already carry. A Chitara delegate clicked her mandibles in irritation. "Are you suggesting humans are superior?" "No," Dae-hyun said quietly. "I am suggesting that 40% of very different amounts results in very different actual contributions. Humanity is willing to give more. We always have been. But this proposal concentrates control in a board that does not represent the species doing the majority of the work." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some delegates nodded. Others looked angry. Chancellor Thrain raised a clawed hand. "Ambassador Dae-hyun, humanity has benefited greatly from council membership. You have access to markets, resources, and protection you would not have alone. Perhaps it is time to give back more generously." Ji-won's jaw tightened. Dae-hyun noticed but continued speaking calmly. "With respect, Chancellor, humanity already gives generously. Our ships patrol routes that protect dozens of species. Our hospitals treat patients who cannot pay. Our engineers maintain infrastructure across council space, often at no charge. We do not object to giving. We object to a system that takes without acknowledging what is already freely given." Tae-sung pulled up another file. "Chancellor, if I may, the economic analysis shows that under this act, humanity will effectively subsidize 62% of council operations while controlling only 4% of the decision-making authority. That is the nature of collective government, a Myrnos delegate said, their voice bubbling through their water-filled suit. All members sacrifice for the greater good. Some sacrifice more than others, Jiwon said quietly. It was the first time she had spoken, and her voice carried an edge. The debate continued for 3 hours. Daehyun presented evidence, raised concerns, and proposed amendments. Every suggestion was voted down. Every concern was dismissed. The pattern became clear. The majority had already decided. This vote was a formality. Finally, Chancellor Thrain called for the final vote. All in favor of the Contribution Taxation Act? Lights appeared across the chamber. Green for yes, red for no. The Velcros voted yes. The Chitara voted yes. The Myrnos voted yes. 46 species voted yes, 8 voted no. Humanity, the Kesari, and 6 smaller species. The motion passes, Thrain announced. All member species will comply within 90 days. This session is adjourned. Daehyun stood slowly. He looked at Tae-sung, then at Jiwon. Both nodded once. They had discussed this possibility. They had made a plan. The ambassador stepped to the microphone one last time. The chamber was already filling with the noise of delegates preparing to leave. Thrain was gathering his documents. Chancellor, Daehyun said. His voice was not loud, but something in it made everyone stop. The chamber went silent. Humanity has been a member of this council for 147 years. In that time, we have given freely of our knowledge, our resources, and our labor. We have asked for partnership and received demands. We have offered cooperation and received exploitation. Thrain's eyes narrowed. Ambassador, the vote is concluded. Yes, Daehyun agreed. It is, and so is our membership. Humanity respectfully withdraws from this council, effective immediately. The silence was total. No one moved. No one spoke. Daehyun closed his folder. Jiwon and Tae-sung stood. Together, the 3 humans walked toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the crystal chamber. You cannot simply leave, Thrain shouted. There are procedures. Negotiations. Daehyun did not turn around. You voted, he said. We are voting with our feet. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the chamber, chaos erupted. Some delegates shouted. Others demanded an explanation. Thrain hammered his gavel, trying to restore order, but the humans were already gone, walking through the station corridor in perfect silence, heading toward their ship. Behind them, the council had no idea what they had just lost. The message went out 6 hours after Ambassador Daehyun left the council chamber. It was encrypted with codes that only humans could read. It traveled through channels that only human ships could access. It reached every human colony, station, ship, and settlement across council space. The message was simple. 3 words. Protocol Omega. Begin now. On Arcturus Station, Governor Hyrin read the message in her office. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had run this station for 12 years. Arcturus was a hub where 5 different species lived and worked together. Humans managed the life support systems, the medical facilities, and the trade coordination. Other species handled their own sectors. Hyrin closed her eyes for a moment. She had hoped it would not come to this, but she had also prepared for it. She opened the station-wide channel to all human personnel. This is Governor Hyrin. Activate evacuation protocols. You have 48 hours. Pack only what matters. Help your neighbors if they ask. Do not argue with anyone. Just leave quietly. Within an hour, human families began packing. They took personal belongings, family photos, and important documents. They did not take anything that belonged to the station. They did not sabotage anything. They simply prepared to go. The other species on the station noticed quickly. A Velcros merchant stopped a human engineer named Min-Ki in the corridor. Where are you going? The merchant demanded. Min-Ki did not stop walking. Home, he said simply. But what about the station? You maintain the water recycling systems. Someone else will have to learn, Min-Ki replied. He was not angry. He was not sad. He simply stated a fact. The merchant looked confused. You cannot just leave. Who will fix things? Min-Ki finally stopped and turned. He was an older man with steady hands and patient eyes. He had built half the systems on the station himself. I left complete manuals in the engineering database, he said. Everything is documented. The systems will run automatically for about 6 months. After that, you will need to perform maintenance. The instructions are very clear, but we do not know how. Then you will learn, Minky said. We did. He continued walking toward the docking bay. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On the merchant ship Prosperity, Captain Sung-ho recalled his entire fleet. He had 37 ships under his command, running trade routes between 17 different systems. His ships carried food, medicine, manufactured goods, and raw materials. His network connected dozens of worlds. He sent a message to every port authority. All contracts are canceled. All deliveries will cease within 72 hours. We recommend you find alternative suppliers. A Chitara portmaster sent back an angry message. You are bound by contract. We will sue. Sung-ho's response was brief. Check the contract. Section 47, subsection 12. Political instability clause. Humanity is no longer part of your government. Contract void. Good luck. He did not wait for a reply. His ships were already turning around, heading back to human space. In the Velcro's plague zones, Medical Director Bo-Ram made the hardest decision of her life. She commanded 4 hospital ships. Her staff of 2,000 doctors and nurses had been fighting a plague for 8 months. They had saved millions of lives. The plague was finally under control. We are leaving, she told her senior staff. A young doctor named Jamin looked shocked. But the patients will be transferred to local facilities, Bo-Ram interrupted gently. We will leave all our equipment. We will leave all our medicine. We will leave detailed treatment protocols, but we are leaving. Some of them will die without us, Jamin said. His voice cracked. Bo-Ram felt a weight in her chest. She had not slept properly in months. She had held the hands of dying children. She had watched parents weep. Yes, she said softly. Some will die. And that breaks my heart, but we cannot force people to want our help. The council voted. They made their choice. Now we make ours. She placed a hand on Yamin's shoulder. Pack up. We leave in 2 days. Jamin wiped his eyes and nodded. The most critical withdrawal happened in silence. Chief Engineer Minky, who had left Arcturus Station, had a second job. He was one of 17 humans who maintained the jump gates. These gates were the backbone of faster-than-light travel. Without them, it took months or years to travel between systems. With them, the journey took hours. Humans had not invented jump gates, but they had perfected them. A gate required constant maintenance, precise calibration, and frequent updates. The technology was complex and delicate. Minky accessed the central network from his ship. He downloaded every human engineer's notes, every modification, every improvement made over the past century. Then he shut down the human access codes. He did not break anything. He did not sabotage anything. He simply removed human oversight. The gates would continue working automatically, for a while. On the council station, Chancellor Thrain watched reports flood in. Humans were leaving everywhere. Not some humans. All humans, stop them, he ordered. Send security forces. Arrest them for breach of contract. His military advisor, a Chitara warrior named Vexilla, shook her head. On what grounds? They have broken no laws. They are simply exercising their right to leave. They are destroying the council. No, Chancellor, Vexilla said carefully. They are simply leaving. What happens after they leave is our problem, not theirs. This is a tantrum, Thrain insisted. They are upset about the vote. They will calm down. Send a diplomatic team to negotiate. The diplomatic team arrived at the human embassy 3 hours later. The embassy was empty. The humans had already packed everything and left. There was no furniture, no documents, no computers, just empty rooms. On the main desk, they found a single handwritten note. We wish you well. Within 48 hours, 90% of humans had left council space. Within 72 hours, the number reached 98%. The remaining 2% were deep space explorers who would need time to return. The exodus was orderly. There were no protests, no angry speeches, no violence. Humans simply packed their belongings, closed their shops, powered down their stations, and left. Some species tried to convince them to stay. A Kessari merchant begged Captain Sung-ho to reconsider. You are making a mistake, the Kessari said. We can work together. Sung-ho smiled sadly. You voted against the act. You tried to help us. We remember that. When things stabilize, we will trade with you again, but we cannot stay in a system designed to exploit us. What will happen to the council? Sung-ho looked out at the stars. I do not know. That is not our responsibility anymore. We tried to make it work. They did not want partners. They wanted servants, so we left. By the end of the week, human space was crowded with returning ships. Every colony welcomed them home. They had space. They had resources. They had been preparing for this possibility for years, though they had hoped it would never come. In council space, the first problems appeared. Medical supplies ran low. Food shipments stopped. Communication networks began experiencing glitches. Patrol routes went unmanned, and the humans were gone. Quietly, completely, gone. Chancellor Thrain sat in his office, staring at reports. They will come back, he told himself. They need us as much as we need them. But in his heart, he was beginning to suspect that was not true at all. 4 days after the humans left, the first real crisis hit. The Velcros plague, which Medical Director Boram and her team had been controlling, started spreading again. The local doctors tried to follow the protocols the humans had left behind. But the protocols were complex. They required equipment the local facilities did not have. They required medicines that needed to be mixed in precise measurements. Within a week, 3 hospitals were overwhelmed. Within 2 weeks, the death count started rising again. Chancellor Thrain received the reports with growing alarm. Contact the human medical ships, he ordered. Offer them whatever they want. Triple pay, quadruple, just get them back here. His aide tried for 2 days to reach Boram. She finally answered on the 3rd day. Her face appeared on the screen and she looked tired but peaceful. Chancellor, she said politely. Director Boram, we need your help. The plague is spreading again. People are dying, I know, she said softly. I am very sorry. Then come back. We will pay you whatever you ask. Boram shook her head. Chancellor, this is not about money. We left complete instructions. We left medicine and equipment. We left everything you need. But we do not know how to use it. Then learn, Boram said. We had to learn once. We studied. We practiced. We made mistakes and learned from them. You can do the same. People will die while we learn. Boram's eyes were sad. Yes, they will. And that breaks my heart. But you voted to take 40% of everything we built. You voted to control us. You cannot have it both ways. You cannot take our freedom and demand our service. The screen went dark. On day 7, the food crisis began. The Chitara hive worlds had always struggled with agriculture. Their planet was mostly desert and rock. They depended on imported food. 30% of that food came from human agricultural colonies. When the shipments stopped, the Chitara tried to buy from other sources, but those sources were already supplying their own people. There was no surplus. A Chitara leader named Vexala contacted Human Agricultural Administrator Hirin. Vexala was a proud warrior, but now she had to beg. We have money, Vexala said. We will pay premium prices. Please, our young are hungry. Hirin looked at her with sympathy. I am sorry. Our agricultural output is already committed to feeding our own people and our allies. We could be your allies. You voted for the act, Hirin said quietly. You stood with the Chancellor. You wanted to take 40% of our production without paying for it. Now you want to buy it at premium prices. Do you see the contradiction? Vexala's mandibles clicked in frustration. That was politics. This is survival. Politics has consequences, Hirin replied. We are not your enemy, but we are also not your safety net. You made decisions. Now you live with them. I am truly sorry. The transmission ended. By day 10, the military situation deteriorated. Pirates had always been a problem in the border regions, but human patrol ships had kept them in check. Human tactical coordination had made the Council's defensive network efficient. Now the patrol routes were empty. Pirates attacked merchant ships with impunity. 3 colonies were raided in a single week. The Council fleet tried to respond, but their coordination was terrible. Ships from different species used different communication protocols. They had different tactical doctrines. They had always relied on human coordinators to translate and organize everything. Vexala, who was also the Council's military commander, tried to organize a response to a pirate base. It was a disaster. 5 different species sent ships. They arrived at different times. They could barely communicate. 2 ships almost fired on each other by mistake. The pirates escaped easily. Vexala sat in her command center staring at the tactical display. She had been a warrior for 30 years. She had fought in a dozen campaigns. She had always thought of humans as soft, more interested in trade and medicine than fighting. Now she understood. Humans had not been soft. They had been smart. They had been organized. They had been the glue holding everything together. She sent a message to Admiral Youngsu, the human fleet commander. "We need your tactical support." "Name your price," Youngsu's reply came 12 hours later. "Commander Vexala, we appreciate the offer. However, we are currently busy defending our own space and our allies. We do not have resources to spare for the Council. We recommend you develop your own tactical coordination systems. It will take time, but you will manage eventually." The message was polite but firm. Translation: you are on your own. On day 15, the economic collapse began. The human banking system had guaranteed loans across Council space. Human insurance companies had covered risks that no one else would touch. Human currency had been the standard for interstellar trade because everyone trusted it. Now the banks closed their doors to Council members. The insurance policies were canceled. The currency exchange rates went crazy. A merchant colony called Telos Station had depended entirely on human-backed credit to buy supplies. When the credit disappeared, they could not pay their bills. Within 3 days, the station was bankrupt. 2,000 families became refugees overnight. Similar stories played out across Council space. Businesses failed. Savings evaporated. Trade routes collapsed. Tae-sung, the human economist, received hundreds of messages begging for help. He ignored most of them. But he did send one message to the Council's economic minister. "You wanted to take 40% of our economic infrastructure. Now you see what that infrastructure was actually holding up. We tried to warn you. You did not listen. We cannot fix this for you. You will need to build your own systems. It will take years. Good luck." Chancellor Thrain called emergency session after emergency session. Every meeting was chaos. Species blamed each other. Old rivalries came back to the surface. The Velcros blamed the Chitara for being too greedy. The Chitara blamed the Myrnos for supporting the act. The Myrnos blamed the Velcros for leading the vote. "We must bring the humans back," Thrain insisted. "We must negotiate. With what leverage?" A Kessari delegate asked quietly. "We have nothing they need. They have everything we need. We could threaten them," a Velcros general suggested. "Send warships to their territory." The room went silent. Vexala spoke up. "That would be suicide. The humans have been building their own fleet. They know all our tactics. They designed most of our weapons. A war would be very short and very embarrassing for us. Then what do we do?" No one had an answer. Thrain sent a personal message to Ambassador Dae-hyun. It was marked urgent. Highest priority. He offered everything. Full veto power for humans on the Council, reduced contribution requirements, formal apology. Dae-hyun's response came 3 days later. It was brief. "Chancellor Thrain, we appreciate your message. However, humanity has moved on. We are no longer interested in Council membership under any terms. We tried partnership. It did not work. We wish you well in your future endeavors. There is no table to return to. You voted us out. We are staying out." Thrain read the message 10 times. He kept hoping he had misunderstood. But the words were clear. The humans were not coming back. Not for money. Not for apologies. Not for anything. Around him, Council space continued its slow collapse. Medical systems failing. Food shortages spreading. Pirates raiding freely. Economy crumbling. Species turning on each other. And in the silence, everyone finally understood what they had lost. The humans had not been trying to dominate the Council. They had been holding it together. They had been the infrastructure. The foundation. The steady hands doing the unglamorous work that kept civilization functioning. Now those hands were gone. And the Council was learning a hard lesson. It is much easier to take something for granted than it is to replace it once it is gone. 6 months passed. The galaxy had changed. The Galactic Council still existed, but barely. 57 species had been members. Now only 31 remained. 7 species had collapsed economically and dissolved into refugee populations. 19 had withdrawn, tired of the constant fighting and chaos. The Velcros Empire was tearing itself apart. Without human medical technology, their plague had killed millions. Without human trade networks, their economy had crashed. Different Velcros factions blamed each other and started fighting. Civil war seemed inevitable. The Chitara hives faced starvation. They had tried to develop their own agriculture, but it would take years. Millions of Chitara had already died. Millions more survived on emergency rations that barely kept them alive. The Myrnos had retreated to their water worlds and closed their borders. They were surviving, but just barely. Chancellor Thrain had been removed from power. A new chancellor had been elected, but nobody respected her authority. The council meetings were shouting matches where nothing got decided. Meanwhile, human space was thriving. Governor Hyarin stood in the observation deck of New Sol Station, watching ships come and go. The station had been expanded twice in 6 months. Every dock was full. Trade was booming. "We are processing 50,000 refugees this month," her assistant told her. "Mostly Kasari and other species that voted against the act." "How are we managing?" Hyarin asked. "Well, they are willing to work. They are grateful. We are screening them carefully, but most are genuine refugees, not opportunists." Hyarin nodded. "Good. We help people who need help. But we help them on our terms, not because someone demands it." In a laboratory on Earth, scientist Jeha published a breakthrough paper on faster-than-light travel. His new jump gate design was 30% more efficient than the old council gates. It was safer, faster, and cheaper to maintain. The council had restricted his research for years. They had committees and regulations and endless reviews. They said his work was too dangerous or not properly vetted. Really, they just wanted to control the technology. Now he was free to research whatever he wanted. And he was making discoveries at an incredible pace. "This is what we could have been doing all along," he told his research team. "We were wasting our potential trying to make the council happy. Now we make ourselves happy, and we are achieving more than we ever did before." Admiral Youngsu commanded a fleet that was becoming the most powerful in the galaxy. Human ships had always been well designed. But now, without council restrictions, they were exceptional. He was not planning to attack anyone, but he made sure everyone knew that human space was protected. Pirates who tried to raid human colonies learned quickly to stay away. The few who tried did not return. "We are not conquerors," Youngsu told his officers. "We are defenders. But we defend our friends too. Anyone who stands with us will be protected." The new alliance was called the Terran Commonwealth. 19 species had joined. These were mostly smaller species that had always been treated fairly by humans. They had voted against the act. They had tried to stop the exploitation. Now they were rewarded for their loyalty. The Commonwealth was smaller than the Council had been, but it was stronger. Its members actually trusted each other. They traded fairly. They shared resources willingly. They protected each other genuinely. There was no 40% tax. There was no central board controlling everything. There were just mutual agreements, fair contracts, and genuine partnership. Integration. Director Suman reviewed applications from species wanting to join the Commonwealth. Every day, dozens of applications arrived. Most were from desperate council species that had suddenly discovered they needed human help. She rejected almost all of them. "Why?" a Myrnos ambassador asked. He had flown all the way to Earth to plead his case. "We can pay. We can contribute. Let us join." Suman looked at him calmly. "You voted for the act. You stood with the Chancellor. You tried to take what we built without permission. Now you want to join because you need us. That is not partnership. That is opportunism." "We made a mistake," the ambassador admitted. "Yes, you did," Suman agreed. "And mistakes have consequences. Trust is not granted. It is earned. You took a century of trust and destroyed it with a single vote. It will take time to rebuild that trust. Years, maybe decades. We do not have decades. Our people are suffering." Suman felt sympathy, but she did not waver. "I am sorry for your suffering, truly. But we cannot save you from the consequences of your own decisions. That would not help you. You need to learn to solve your own problems." The ambassador left angry, but Suman knew she was right. The Commonwealth could not become a charity organization. It had to remain a genuine alliance of equals. The Kasari were different. They had always treated humans with respect. They had voted against the act. When they applied to join the Commonwealth, Suman personally approved it. "Welcome," she told the Kasari representative, a diplomat named Yaru. "You stood with us when it mattered. We will stand with you now." Yaru's eyes filled with tears. The Kasari had been struggling since the council collapsed. "Thank you. We will not forget this, we know," Suman said. "That is why you are here. Some species tried other approaches." A Chitara general sent a message to Admiral Youngsu. It was aggressive and demanding. "You have food. We need food. We will pay or we will take it by force. Choose." Youngsu replied with coordinates. These are the locations of your military bases and command centers. If a single Chitara warship enters Commonwealth space with hostile intent, we will destroy these bases in 3 hours. We do not want war, but we will defend ourselves. Choose carefully. The Chitra general did not reply. No Chitara warships approached Commonwealth space. Other approaches were more humble. A group of Velcro scientists contacted Jeha. They were researchers who had opposed the act but been ignored by their government. We are not asking for charity, their message said. We are asking for cooperation. We will share our research freely. We will work with you as equals, please. Science should not be political. Jeha considered carefully. Then he replied, "Send your data. We will review it. If your research is genuine and your intent is honest, we can work together. But you work with us, not for us. Partners." The Velcro scientists agreed immediately. 7 months after the exodus, Ambassador Dai Hyun received a visitor. The new Velcro's government, the one that had overthrown Chancellor Thrain, sent a delegation. They met in a conference room on Earth. The Velcro's diplomats looked uncomfortable. They were used to dominating meetings. Now they were asking for help. Ambassador Dae Hyun, the lead diplomat, began. "We want to apologize. The previous government made terrible mistakes. We are different. We want to start over." Dae Hyun listened politely. He was older now, more gray in his hair. He looked tired. "What exactly do you want to start over?" he asked. "Relations with humanity, trade, cooperation, perhaps eventually joining the Commonwealth." Dae Hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Do you know why we left?" he asked. "Because of the act?" "No," Dae Hyun interrupted gently. "The act was just the final straw. We left because you never saw us as partners. You saw us as tools. Useful tools, but tools nonetheless. You used what we built, benefited from what we created, but you never respected us as equals." The Velcro's diplomats looked uncomfortable. "We wanted partnership," Dae Hyun continued. "We wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We gave freely because we believed in the Council's ideals. But the Council did not believe in those ideals. It believed in power and control. We can change, one diplomat insisted. Perhaps, Dae Hyun said. But that change will take time, years. You need to prove you have changed. Words are easy. Actions matter. Show us over time that you have learned. Maybe then we can talk about partnership. What should we do? Solve your own problems. Help your own people. Stop expecting others to save you. When you can stand on your own, when you treat others fairly without needing anything from them, then come talk to us. Not before." The meeting ended. The Velcros left quietly. Dae Hyun stood at the window looking out at Earth. Ji-won joined him. "Do you think they will learn?" she asked. "Some will," Dae Hyun said. "Others will not. But that is not our responsibility anymore. We tried to teach them before. They did not want to learn. Now they have to teach themselves. Do you regret leaving?" Dae Hyun thought about the question carefully. "No," he finally said. "We should have left sooner. We stayed too long, trying to make something work that was broken. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stop helping people who refuse to help themselves." Outside, the ships of the Commonwealth came and went, carrying trade and travelers and hope for a better future. 2 years had passed since the Exodus. The galaxy looked completely different now. The Galactic Council existed in name only. Only 23 species remained as members, down from 57. They met occasionally, but nobody took the meeting seriously anymore. The Council had no power, no resources, and no respect. It was a ghost of what it had been. The Velcros Empire had broken into 4 separate factions. They were still fighting each other. Millions had died in the Civil War. Some Velcros had given up on their government entirely and become refugees, seeking homes in other systems. The Chitara hives had lost nearly half their population to starvation and disease. The survivors had finally developed basic agriculture, but it had taken everything they had. They had no energy left for politics or expansion. They focused entirely on survival. The Murnos kept to themselves on their water worlds. They traded occasionally with nearby species, but they were no longer a major power. They had retreated from galactic affairs completely. Other species that had supported the act were suffering similar fates. Some had recovered partially. Others had collapsed entirely. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about taking things for granted. Meanwhile, the Terran Commonwealth was thriving. 26 species were now members. The Commonwealth covered a third of the old Council's territory, but it was far more stable and prosperous. Trade flowed smoothly. Disputes were resolved fairly. Member species actually helped each other instead of exploiting each other. Governor Hiron had been elected as the Commonwealth's first coordinator. It was not like being chancellor. The coordinator had no supreme power. She simply organized meetings and made sure everyone's voice was heard. "We do not need rulers," she said at her inauguration. "We need listeners. We need people who help others work together, not people who tell others what to do." The Commonwealth Assembly met on a rotating schedule. Each species hosted for 3 months. This month, the meeting was on the Kessari homeworld. Representative Yaru welcomed the delegates warmly. The Kessari had flourished under Commonwealth membership. Their economy had recovered. Their people were happy. 2 years ago we were starving, Yaru told the assembly. The council had collapsed. We had no trade partners. We thought we might not survive. The humans could have ignored us. They could have demanded steep prices for their help. Instead, they offered us partnership. Equal partnership. We will never forget that. Captain Sung-ho was at the meeting as the human trade representative. He listened to Yaru's speech and felt satisfied. This was what they had wanted all along. Not gratitude, not subordination, just partnership. After the meeting, he walked with Yaru through the Kessari capital city. It was beautiful, full of gardens and fountains. "Do you ever regret leaving the council?" Yaru asked. Sung-ho thought about it. "No," he said. "We regret that it came to that. We regret that we could not make it work. But leaving was the right decision. We were not punishing anyone. We were respecting ourselves. Some species think you were cruel. They say you abandoned the galaxy in its time of need. We spent 147 years meeting the galaxy's needs," Sung-ho replied. "We gave freely. We helped constantly. When we asked for basic respect in return, we were told to give 40% more. That is not partnership. That is exploitation. Walking away from exploitation is not cruel. It is necessary." Yaru nodded slowly. "What about the species still suffering? The Velcros, the Chitara, the others? I feel sorry for them," Sung-ho said honestly. "I wish they were not suffering. But we cannot save people from their own choices. They chose to vote for the act. They chose to ignore our warnings. They chose exploitation over cooperation. Now they live with those choices. Should we help them if they ask?" "That depends," Sung-ho said. "Are they asking for charity or partnership? Do they want us to solve their problems, or do they want to work together as equals? There is a difference." Medical Director Boram faced the same questions. The Chitara had finally sent her a message. It was from their new leader, a young Chitara named Velsara. The message was different from the others. It was not demanding. It was not begging. It was humble. "Director Boram, we know we have no right to ask for your help. We know we voted against you. We know we supported taking your work without compensation. We were wrong. We are sorry. We are not asking you to come back. We are asking if you would teach us. We will pay for your time. We will respect your knowledge. We just want to learn, please." Boram read the message 3 times. Then she replied, "I will send 3 of my staff to your world. They will teach your doctors everything they know. In exchange, you will share all medical data freely with the Commonwealth. And you will promise to treat future patients fairly, regardless of species. If you agree, we have a deal." Velsara agreed immediately. The teaching mission began 2 weeks later. Boram's colleague Jamin, who had wept when they left the plague zones, volunteered to go. "They need help," he said. "I am a doctor. I have to help." Boram hugged him. "Go, teach them well. But remember, you are teaching, not serving. They need to learn to stand on their own." "I understand," Jamin said. Admiral Youngsu dealt with a different challenge. Some old council species had turned to piracy. Desperate and angry, they raided anyone they could reach. A group of Velcros pirates attacked a Commonwealth merchant ship. The ship escaped, but barely. Youngsu sent a fleet to track down the pirates. When they found the pirate base, they destroyed it completely. Then he broadcast a message to all the old council territories. "The Commonwealth protects its own. If you attack our ships, our colonies, or our people, we will respond with overwhelming force. We do not want war. But we will not tolerate aggression. Choose peace and we will leave you alone. Choose violence and we will end you." The message was harsh, but it worked. Pirate attacks dropped by 90% within a month. Not all interactions were hostile. Some council species genuinely wanted to change. A group of Murnos scientists contacted HFY. They had developed a new water purification technology. They offered to share it freely with the Commonwealth. "We are not asking to join," their message said. "We are just sharing knowledge. Science should be open." HFY was impressed. He reviewed their research and found it excellent. He invited them to collaborate on a joint project. "Why are you being generous to us?" one Murnos scientist asked during a video call. "We voted for the act, we hurt you." "You did," HFY agreed. "But you are also scientists. You understand that knowledge should be shared. You are offering real cooperation, not demanding charity. That is the difference. We can work with that." The collaboration produced remarkable results. Together, they developed technology that helped both species. Ambassador Daehyun had retired from active diplomacy. He taught now, at a university on Earth. His students were young people preparing for diplomatic careers. "Tell us about the Exodus," a student asked one day. "Why did humanity leave?" Daehyun sat on the edge of his desk. He looked older now, his hair completely gray, but his eyes were still sharp. "We left because we finally learned to respect ourselves," he said. "For 147 years we gave and gave and gave. We thought that was what good people did. We thought that was partnership, but it was not." "No," Daehyun said. "Partnership is mutual. Both sides give, both sides receive, both sides respect each other. We were giving everything and receiving demands for more. That is not partnership. That is exploitation. And the hardest lesson we learned is that staying in an exploitative situation does not make you noble. It makes you complicit in your own exploitation. Do you think we did the right thing?" "I know we did," Daehyun said firmly. "We tried everything else first. We negotiated. We compromised. We explained, we warned. They did not listen. So we left. And in leaving, we taught the galaxy something important." "What?" "That you cannot take people for granted forever. That exploitation eventually ends one way or another. And that the people who do the work, who build the infrastructure, who hold everything together quietly, those people have the power to walk away. When they do, everything falls apart." Another student raised her hand. "Should we help rebuild the council?" Daehyun shook his head. "The council is dead. Let it die. We have built something better. The Commonwealth is smaller, but it is real. It is based on actual partnership, not pretty speeches about unity while practicing exploitation. We do not need to rebuild the past. We need to build the future." That evening, Daehyun stood on his balcony looking up at the stars. Ji-won joined him. She had retired from security work and now ran a training academy. "Do you think we will ever truly forgive them?" she asked. "Some of them, maybe," Daehyun said. "The ones who learn. The ones who change. But it will take time. Trust is like glass. Once it breaks, you can put the pieces back together, but you will always see the cracks. Was it worth it? All the pain? All the conflict?" Daehyun smiled. "Look at what we have built. The Commonwealth is everything we wanted the Council to be. Our people are happy. Our allies are treated fairly. We make decisions together instead of having them forced on us. Yes, it was worth it." Far away, on a damaged Velcros colony, a young engineer named Koran worked to repair a water purification system. He followed human manuals that had been left behind. It took him 3 weeks to figure it out.